Hey, my name is Dakari. Today, I want to spend some time doing two things that I love: analyzing social media channels, especially as someone that's a social media strategist and content producer, both on the photo and video side, and someone that is a car enthusiast. So, I wanted to take a look at Porsche's approach today to their social media strategy, how they go about publishing content. So, this here is basically the announcement that went out today. They have a brand new 911 GT3, which is a more track oriented version of their current 911. They offer different trims. This one here, very exciting. Basically, the Nürburgring is a very famous racetrack for those that don't know. And so it's basically the benchmark of where everyone tests their vehicles to see performance. And the lap time is an essential piece to the marketing efforts and the overall excitement. So anytime they shave off, 2 seconds, or we're 8 seconds faster, in this case, 9.5 seconds faster than, a previous version of that car or other vehicles that are, in that space, it says a lot. It's really cool. Almost like when Apple says, hey, this new processor that we have is, 70% faster and more efficient. All those things add to the effectiveness of being able to highlight, the performance and value that the customer is going to receive and feel. One thing I like here is that they highlighted quickly, okay, for this first like headline essentially on the copy is the fastest manual production car at the Nürburgring. This is really cool for two reasons. If you're a car enthusiast, a lot of people are really excited when a car is one manual and not automatic. It just adds more engagement and people are really excited. So it's really important to understand your audience. Porsche knows their audience. So highlighting the fact that not only did they establish a new record for this vehicle, but this is the fastest manual production car at the Nürburgring is a very bold statement and exciting thing to make. I think for this first line, it is missing an emoji though. This is cool that it's there, but I just feel because the post for one doesn't have a video and this is all static imagery, I think it would be a really cool idea if there was just a little bit of flair, a little bit of excitement, because this is a major accomplishment, no doubt. So much money has gone into this and engineers, countless hours, all these different things. So sometimes those little subtle details, especially considering that the audience is going to be excited, this is going to be highly shared and highly discussed in forums across YouTube and across everything, Facebook groups, all of that stuff. So that's one thing that I would have done a little bit differently. I feel like this is an opportunity to just really highlight that it is great to get into the weeds and the details of what the specific specs or information is about a certain product or service or whatever the case is for your company. So the other thing that I really like is it's important to be able to get specific as much as possible, especially when you have an audience that is really going to be detail oriented, fact oriented, really like supporting data. When it comes to cars and things like this, when you are speaking about an enthusiast product specifically, get into the weeds. We don't mind, trust me. And Porsche knows their audience that, hey, they're gonna appreciate this. So basically they highlighted like, hey, this is the lap time that this car was able to receive right after basically having that headline of like, hey, this is the fastest manual production car. Boom. And then here's how and why essentially. And the other thing that I like about this social copy is that it includes details saying that, hey, this is 9.5 seconds faster than a competitor. Because basically, not only are they saying, hey, we set a record, but this record here is actually faster than a competitor, because that's really important to highlight when it comes to track times and different things like that. Because people know, people remember, oh, actually, BMW set a X, Y, and Z lap time or whoever it is. So I think it's really cool to be able to call that out and actually get approval on saying that, even though, of course, the facts are there. Sometimes brands can be so concerned about the optics of something, but hey, if there's an opportunity to really just like highlight, share, brag about what you're doing, they did it here. So don't forget to brag when you can. I know it's really hard internally sometimes to get approval on some of that, but I think that they did really great. I like this third paragraph here, basically, where they start to get into the details of saying, hey, it's actually over 3.5 seconds faster than the previous version of this. Similar to when Apple, like I said, basically says, hey, this iPhone 17 is now, 30% faster than the previous, iPhone 16 or whatever the case is. Same kind of benchmarking. People like to know that. It just kind of helps with marketing and positioning and stuff like that. What I wish they would have done with this social copy though, instead of just saying like, hey, this is due to the extensive further development of all performance relevant components. When it comes to cars, especially something like this, people are going to be very hardcore enthusiasts and, you know, data oriented. And so getting specific about even highlight, I know there's a million different things that they probably updated, from software to, suspension components, tire compound, all these different things. But if I were approaching this, I would have at least added, 2 to 3 details of like, hey, we fine-tuned the suspension or updated the spring rate by 13%. We've optimized airflow by X, cooling by this, and at least have a couple of things versus just kind of putting it all like, hey, we made the performance better in a bunch of different areas. I know the copy can get long, but at least adding that as the main detail would be super helpful for someone that's, reading into this. Of course, they have the press release that they link to that's going to have all that information, but sometimes I feel like it's easy to be so worried about people and their um, attention span and different things like that when it comes to social. But posts like this is clearly aimed at someone that's going to be very enthusiastic about the product, very excited. Don't be afraid to go ahead and try different things, because sometimes being a little too high level can kind of lose the excitement for something like this that is such a cool announcement. Getting down to the visuals, I would have led, like, I like the idea that they showed the team. I think this is really cool. That third picture there with the lap time and the team, very important. To me, I think this is something that could have been added later, though, personally. I think this could be a follow-up post that would maybe dive deeper into like, hey, this is the engineering team behind it, and then maybe go into details about some of the updates and the changes that they made and why and different things like that, and then have this picture in there. I've noticed this is a trend that manufacturers do, is like include that, especially Porsche and Audi, which are kind of under the same Volkswagen group. They'll have the teams that work there, on the track day and stuff like that, and they'll have that picture, and they'll kind of include that on the day of announcement. Personally, I would have highly suggested that we lead with a video. Here's what I would have done. I would have worked with the creative team to basically pull a clip from that track day when they were at the Nürburgring. Basically, use a clip of, different driving dynamics, the most exciting part, most thrilling part of, that under 7-minute track time, and then have some of this information like the the lap time show up on the actual visual on that video with some text pop-ups and, who the driver was. I think that would have been a really cool video to lead with, where you hear the car running, you see the driver steering, you see them actually on that racetrack. And then of course this could be cut up where they have in-car footage, they could have some external shots, and then, they could have ended with, maybe some team photos that were basically there, like with the video or something like that. That could have been a cool way to kind of put it together, just kind of thinking like high level. That's would have been my approach, because this is such a cool announcement, and just to see these images here, I feel like it's a little bit dull in comparison to some of the other things that they've published. So I'll just click on the video tab here to kind of show you some things that they've done in the past. It's been a little while, but even looking at this here, this was published 6 days ago. You see the car in action, you see external shots of the car, you see some interior shots of the car and different things like that. And so I think this is just adds a little bit more excitement when you can actually see whatever the product is in action as much as possible, and especially with video. And even on LinkedIn, video is being super prioritized right now. So I would say, as much as possible, try to lead with video versus static imagery. Would have been a little bit more effective in really communicating the excitement around this. So that's just one example. They have other things here. Like, look at this video that they did with the electric Macan, something that they're really pushing and kind of struggling with to get people to purchase and get excited about. But if you look at this visual, look, there's pop-up text that's, available to basically have the call to action or details about the car. This is something that they could have carried over to that track day video, or, something similar with that 911 GT3. So these are just some of my initial thoughts from looking at it. I took a look at their other channels, and they haven't published this car yet. I think that's actually really cool. This post actually went up about 4 hours ago from the time I'm looking at it. So I do feel like it's cool sometimes to stagger out certain things. It just depends on how important this announcement is and what other things you have going out. But sometimes you typically see like, hey, once there's a huge announcement of, X, Y, and Z, then, it's all published at the same time. I feel like that typically is the case with some of the things that they publish about, but this time around, I'm not seeing it. I've also just, as a side note, noticed that they are publishing a lot less on TikTok as well as X, which is very interesting. Quickly just taking a look at their YouTube channel, because this is where there's just another opportunity to basically kind of call out what they have done there. So here we have like the full passenger video, and this is something where I'm saying, back to the creative, I think there's an opportunity to basically repurpose a lot of this for social, because in this video, you'll see that basically it's a full ride along POV of the race car driver basically setting the new record on this car. So this is something where I feel like, and you take a look at some of the information that's available on screen. This is very important data. It shows what gear he's in, the speed, and other metrics like throttle input, braking, and things like that. This is the type of stuff that an enthusiast is going to want to look at. So for future posts, Porsche, I'd recommend using some of this information as much as possible and some of these visual assets that you have access to, and use that as the social post, and then follow up with some of the cool, more production shots that were done of the exterior of the car and all that fun stuff. But give people, the meat where they are. Don't necessarily like always hold it on certain accounts, and then you kind of have different things on other socials where it's like, hey, we're going to give you a little bit of a tease here. Like, meet people where they are is my philosophy on social as much as possible, especially when something's very exciting. So those are my initial thoughts. I definitely want to do this more and be able to share some input on different things that I love, different things where I think there's an opportunity to do more. And then again, this is something where I'm going to be highlighting automotive content mostly from different brands, because I think there's a lot of incredible work being done. Porsche is one that I really hold highly in things that they do. And so this is one post where I noticed it was done a little bit less exciting compared to some of their previous posts. So I just wanted to highlight some things that I noticed. And then, of course, this is a learning opportunity for all of us to make sure we level up our content as much as possible. Sometimes it's really hard, but of course, there's an opportunity to continue to optimize things along the way. So I'll see you in the next video.